So bear with me, guys, while I get this set up here. All right, so it looks like it is showing that I am live right now. Hello, everyone. I am Millie Weaver, or Millennial Millie, so to speak. So everyone is dying to know, what will the verdict be in the Kyle Rittenhouse case? Will he be found not guilty, or perhaps maybe he'll be found guilty? Or will it be a hung jury, or potentially even a mistrial? I'm just going to go over some of the latest information and updates on the Kyle Rittenhouse case. We're all dying to know what happens. The country is completely polarized right now over the Kyle Rittenhouse case. While you have many people on the far left and BLM side hoping that Kyle Rittenhouse gets the death penalty or he gets locked away forever and sent to prison forever, you have the right-wing side saying, you know, this is his right to self-defense, he's innocent, he should be found not guilty, and even that there should never have even been a case in the first place. So I'm going to be going over what my prediction is in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, because I've been following this very closely. I know most of you guys follow me all throughout on different social media platforms, but for those of you guys who follow me on Twitter, I have been following the Kyle Rittenhouse case, and I've been tweeting about it and updates and everything else on my Twitter profile. So if you guys are on Twitter still, you can follow me there, Millie_Weaver or Millie Weaver on Twitter. I know I haven't been talking as much with you guys and streaming as much with you guys on YouTube and some of these other social media platforms, and that is because of the censorship. So I'm even taking a risk right now by live streaming on many of these other social media platforms. The risk being that someone decides to flag me and try to take down my channel over something I say. So I'm really going to kind of strictly stick to the Kyle Rittenhouse case today on this video, because as of now, I don't think that can get you banned for anything. And pretty soon, when Quicks is fully launched and released to everyone in the public, that won't even be an issue, because then you guys can just follow me on Quicks, and I can say whatever the heck I want. All right. So anyway, the Kyle Rittenhouse case. Right now, there are protesters outside the Kenosha County Courthouse. They have been out there. They have been, shouting and being very loud and disruptive. The jurors apparently inside are able to hear them shouting. There are reports that at least 2 of the jurors are, kind of at a stopple and refusing to throw their vote in as to what they think, not guilty, guilty, whatever, because they're worried and fearful about retaliation. Some of the jurors are fearful that they will be doxxed, their identities will be released. We know that if, in fact, their identities get released in any way, shape, or form, I don't think many of these mainstream media sites are going to hesitate to just broadcast all these people's information and even dig into their personal lives and say, look, some of them were Trump supporters, or some of them were what they believe to be, racists or anything crazy. So I think that, man, it'd be a tough position to be in, to be one of the jurors in this case, because whichever way the jury comes out in the end, whatever the verdict is that the jury reaches, you're going to have a lot of people upset. It's either going to be people on the right side or people on the left-wing side. So obviously, my opinion, I voiced it loud and clear, at least on Twitter and other social media sites, that I do believe that Kyle Rittenhouse should never have even been tried. I don't think that he should have. I think this is a miscarriage of justice. I think that the American justice system is wasting taxpayer dollars, in essence, by even bringing this case forward, because it was clear with the video evidence that was available at the time that Kyle was acting in self-defense. And if anything, if you wanted to get technical, I think that the state brought invalid charges against Kyle. That's not to say that I don't think that, they might have been able to try to find some other loophole in some other way, shape, and form to go after him. And even maybe in that instance, maybe they could try to even win something on him. But I think that the initial charges that they decided to go for here were just way too extreme. I immediately thought, well, they're never going to get those charges to stick. To try to say he intentionally killed these people, and the fact that the liberal prosecutor Binger is trying to paint Kyle Rittenhouse as a mass shooter, an attempted mass shooter, is just flagrantly biased. It's almost as though he's just some Democrat prosecutor that is doing activism in the name of the state and trying to push for his ideology of anti-gun policies. I mean, the way he talks about an AR-15, as though, he mentions here that if you have the bigger gun, you don't have the right to say it was self-defense, because Kyle Rittenhouse had an AR-15, and one of the one of the thugs that attacked him had a Glock. Okay, so in his mind, an AR-15 is a bigger gun, therefore Kyle was in less danger when he had a crazy man running at him with a Glock? Makes no sense. And if anything, look, I'm no gun expert, but I know quite a few gun experts, and I bet many of them would say that in a close proximity situation where somebody is attacking you up close, the firearm that would have the advantage would be the Glock or the smaller gun, because the likelihood that the other person could grab the barrel and direct it away from themselves and then shoot you with their pistol is pretty high. So I would say that all the arguments that Prosecutor Binger has been promoting with his anti-gun agenda is purely bias, and it's coming from a place of being uneducated about guns and whatnot. So, all right, let's continue about the verdict. So, my feeling is that just by judging the nation right now and how polarized everything is, if you go watch any of the live streams on social media, now mind you, there could be some kind of IAA operations going on with bots and chats and whatnot, but I've seen enough leftist people on the internet voicing their opinions, saying he's guilty, lock him up and throw away the key, to know that the country is polarized on Kyle Rittenhouse. So given that you see this split in America, if in fact the jury was selected to represent we the people, the American people, then I believe that the jury is not going to be able to come to a unanimous vote, or unanimous verdict, should I say. And I believe that it's going to result in a hung jury. And a hung jury is essentially when the jury they don't have enough votes to be able to say guilty, and they don't have enough votes to be able to say not guilty. So the judge will either ask them to go back and try to deliberate some more. And that is what I think is kind of happening right now. As far as I've heard, the verdict was supposed to have been read today. But it seems as though there's this estoppel, this holdup that's going on because a couple jurors are fearful of their lives. There are protesters outside of the Kenosha County courthouse. You have plenty of these BLM protesters who are, remember guys, mostly peaceful protesters. Wink, wink. But yet they're supposedly so peaceful that the National Guard is being deployed ahead of schedule, like ahead of any protests even happening, right? So people are fearful. And yes, there are even some Kyle Rittenhouse supporters out there as well. And there have been some arguments and some kind of heated exchanges going on between the two groups. I know it looks like Fox News posted some images and photos. You can just see the pictures here where you've got some heated exchanges going on between people. You can see some of the people saying self-defense, others saying lock them up, throw them in jail. So, yes, there are some heated exchanges going on. And whatever the result, we know that there's going to be some kind of public reaction. I don't think there should be, personally. I think that if the public decides and wants to protest and peacefully protest, that is their right to do so. But I think that the possibility that it could turn into something violent and more like a riot, I think that possibility is greater if Kyle were to be found not guilty, if Kyle were to be found not guilty, it is more likely that we will see rioting, because I don't think that we're going to see right-wing people, right-wing groups out there rioting in the streets. You just don't typically see that with those people, because if they do anything wrong, the full weight of the justice system comes down on them. But somehow these left-wing groups are able to just run around and act with immunity and just vandalize, burn things down, commit arson, commit other types of crimes, and then they go to jail for a day, and then it seems like they just get released and nothing ever comes of it. So many of them are repeat protesters. And one of the things I thought that was rather insulting and disgusting was that during the trial, prosecutor Binger, whatever his name is, Binger, he said that the protesters, he mentioned that they were veterans. And I'm thinking, like, what? He's not saying that they were veterans as in like in the military service. No, he was saying veterans as in they're veteran protesters. Like, they were veterans as in they were seasoned rioters, right? They're people who, this is not their first rodeo. So I thought that was kind of a weird term to use when describing them, but everything was just so biased throughout this entire trial. I don't know how they can argue that the jury pool hasn't been tainted already, or that the jury isn't being pressured in one way or another when threats against them are being made. Protesters are being allowed to amass directly outside of the courthouse to where they can actually hear them screaming and shouting. You would think that the state would anticipate the possibility that jurors' lives would be threatened, that they would be harassed, or that there would be protesters, given how public this case was, right? How publicized what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse was. You would think that the state would think ahead of time and think, all right, let's make extra precautions to protect our jury. Let's do things to protect their identity. I don't know whether or not the jurors were forced to wear masks inside the trial. I doubt it. But let's just say this. If I were one of the jurors, I would be like, I want that mask, right? The one time, right? Just so you can have a little bit of protection against, in case someone decides to come in there and sneak a photo or dox people's identity. But it's a sad day and age where people have to be fearful for their safety and their lives when they're just participating as a juror in a case. You would think that most grown adults in society would accept the result of the case, and if they don't accept it, they would trust in the process to appeal, to get behind the person, to either appeal it or find some other way of legal remedy, not resort to any type of violence or rioting or chaos. But that's not the day and age we live in. We live in the day and age of crazy, loony I guess, Antifa crybabies and millennials that just, they want what they want. If they don't get it, they have a full-blown triggered meltdown. That is the day and age we live in. You know, one of the things I want to talk about in the case is that, you know, the arguments that were made, one of them being that Kyle Rittenhouse should have just used his fists. That he should have, you know, shouldn't have brought a gun to a bar fight. That is what the prosecutor said. I cannot believe it, but that is literally, it came out of his mouth. That's what he said. He compared it to a bar fight? How is that anything like a bar fight? First of all, being mobbed, being chased by an angry mob, a mob that's already committing a plethora of other crimes, mind you. That's a one-on-one, that's like a bar fight. And expecting a minor child, which Kyle was, he was 17 years old, he was still considered to be a minor. In most cases, people know that you can't go around attacking and assaulting minors, okay? That's a bigger deal than assaulting an adult, which is wrong either way. But to then assault and attack a minor, it's just, I don't know. We're living in an upside down, backwards world where the heroes are felons, child sexual assaulters, people who hold their family members up at knife point. Those are the heroes in this tale. According to the left-wing media, Kyle Rittenhouse, a guy who was a lifeguard, training to become a firefighter, who was out there offering medic support and wrapping people's ankles and just out there trying to help and put out fires in his community. Like almost like a Boy Scout of some sort, but going out there risking his neck. Look, it was risky. I wouldn't have wanted, you know, I wouldn't want my son out there doing that because I would fear for his safety, okay? Not because I would think that he was doing anything wrong or illegal or bad, but I would fear for his safety in that situation. This is what our police and our actual emergency services should be doing, and they should have been having the National Guard out there doing those things, but instead they weren't. So American citizens tried to step up to do the right things for their community. That is what Kyle did, and he put himself in danger, and then he ended up having to use self-defense, right? So let's listen to this video clip here where this man is addressing the ridiculous argument that was put forward by Prosecutor Binger right here. Let's listen. Exactly. It is absurd. And it negates the fact that not everyone is equally capable of defending themselves with their fists. I mean, they're assuming that Kyle would have been perfectly okay with defending himself with his fists against an entire mob of adult men, many of them felons, okay? I don't think he would have came out in that situation much better than the other gentleman did that had the sword, if you remember, who was physically attacked and beaten to a pulp, okay? That is probably what would have happened to Kyle Rittenhouse. The fact that those people ran at him, even though he had a gun, shows that they were even more lacking of judgment and more dangerous of individuals. But guns are the great equalizer, okay? In any instance where you have a woman or an elderly person or even a child that needs to be able to defend themselves, their best bet for personal self-defense is a gun, is a firearm. Imagine if this were to be any other situation. Imagine if Kyle was like a woman or something, right? Because they all like to pretend how they think that women are so oppressed and men are not oppressed, and they're like the ones who always come out on top and always have the upper hand in every situation. If Kyle Rittenhouse was a woman out there, they would have totally been like, oh yeah, she definitely had the right to have used self-defense and have a gun. Well, I guess Kyle doesn't get that argument, even though he is a 17-year-old minor and not capable of fending off an entire mob. But yeah, let's think of this instance. So following through with the prosecutor's logic, if you should just use your fists to defend yourself, even if you have a firearm, if somebody comes at you with their fists or even a skateboard, what would happen to someone like me if I were being assaulted or attacked by, let's say, angry people or rapists or sexual assaulters or any kind of crazies, right? I wouldn't stand a chance. I don't think I would. I think my best bet would be to be having a gun or a firearm of some sort to defend myself with. What about an elderly person? You know, would an elderly person be expected to use their fists and just go to town in a brawl fight with an angry mob? But because Kyle is a young man, they think, oh, well, he should just have been able to, you know, physically use his fists to fight off the angry mob. And they completely act like a skateboard can't be used to physically injure someone or even kill them. I've known a lot of skateboarders throughout my life, and I've heard so many tales from them and stories from them about how skateboarders go and get in fights and they use their skateboards as weapons and they knock the crap out of people. They can cause serious injury and damage, you know, to somebody's head like they did with Kyle. Hold on really quick. Okay, so I'm going to play the video again because I'm hearing that there was audio problems with the video. Let me try this again. Wait a second. All right, let's try this again.
Perhaps the most ridiculous is this idea that you're not allowed to defend yourself if you have a better weapon than the person attacking you. If someone instigates aggression and violence against you, you have the right to be able to defend yourself, even if you have a gun and all they have is a skateboard that they're trying to beat you to death with. And not to mention the fact that one of the whole reasons why some people purchase a firearm is so they can defend themselves against a stronger attacker. So this idea that you would just throw out self-defense if someone has a better weapon is patently absurd. There have been a lot of ridiculous arguments in the Rittenhouse case, but perhaps...
Okay, and the idea that, you know, somehow the prosecutor had the idea that Kyle Rittenhouse had a better weapon because he had an AR-15, and somehow that an AR-15 was better than a Glock. Therefore, the whole thing, it just doesn't make sense, okay? I don't think it's supposed to. I think we're just living in some kind of weird lunatic world where, you know, everything is backwards. That's what it seems like. Everything is backwards. The fact that, you know, that they were completely downplaying that the individuals that were chasing Kyle, one of them was chasing him and had a firearm, a Glock. One of them was chasing him and had a 2x4 in his hand. Another one was chasing him and apparently whacked him over the head with a rock in his hand and knocked Kyle's hat off of his head. You know, the individual that originally stormed and chased Kyle down and threatened his life, that individual was a convicted child rapist. He just got out of a mental hospital out of a freaking mental hospital. So this is the mentality. The mentality that you see on the left when it's like they're defending these people and making them the victims and then attacking Kyle and trying to paint the picture that he's some mass shooter when that's ridiculous. I mean, and this sounds kind of harsh, but if there's anything we learned from the Kyle Rittenhouse case, is that, you know, you can't throw a rock into a crowd of leftists without finding a pedophile in one. I mean, look at the charges. Look at the criminal history of many of these individuals. It's abhorrent. And these are the people that the mainstream media are saying are heroes. They're not just saying, oh, they shouldn't have been, you know, their lives should not have been taken. Kyle didn't act rightly in self-defense. And they're saying, no, these were heroes. And then they're trying to paint this whole thing as though this is somewhat racial in any way, shape, or form. Like, oh, there's a lot of racial tensions here, and they're trying to turn it into a race thing or a race issue, as though because this happened at a BLM protest, that therefore a white man killing two other white men in self-defense is a racial issue. Race had nothing to do with it. Kyle wasn't thinking about anything to do with race when he was being chased down, hit over the head, smacked in the head with a skateboard, kicked in the head by another person. I don't think he was thinking about race at all. I think he was thinking about, I want to survive. How am I going to get out of this situation? You know, the audacity that the prosecutor has argued that he didn't do enough to try to de-escalate or try to get away from the situation. The kid literally ran 2 blocks away from the situation to try to avoid another situation that was going to result in him being attacked and having to defend himself. He ran 2 blocks. The people chased him for 2 blocks. It's just unreal. And there's another part in the video clip that was played at least by Kyle's defense attorney, and this was key, was that out of the group of individuals that were chasing him, the mob that were chasing him for 2 blocks, there were 2 people that actually reached him first before the others that got shot did. So I want you to look really closely here at this tweet. All right, so I screenshotted a picture from the video, and this person here actually reaches Kyle first. And there's another person behind this person standing about right here that reaches him first. So all their momentum is going forward. This person reaches first, and that person reaches him first. What do? They immediately stop. These guys are continuing. These guys immediately stop. And watch this. Look at that. They shift their direction. And they back away. They back away. All right. Whoa, guy. I'll leave you alone. You're obviously feeling threatened. I'm backing off. Then this is right here. This is jump kick guy, who then decides to come in and kick Kyle in the head. All right? And you'll see as this video continues here, those other guys, the initial guys that were smart, stopped, moved away. They completely moved far away and run away. All right? It was only the individuals that decided to continue and still assault him and attack him. Those were the people who ended up getting shot in this scenario, the attackers. So, you know, I think that the fact that Kyle had the gun was obviously feeling threatened, giving notice by holding the gun the way he was holding. And, you know, they could tell, there was enough to tell, okay, back off. The prosecutor argues that Kyle was lacking judgment, lacking discernment in the situation by firing. I think that the people who decided to attack someone exercising their Second Amendment right to open carry. The persons that attacked Kyle, they were the ones exercising poor judgment. They were the ones that, they chose the outcome there. It's like one of those things where I'm not comparing Kyle to a police officer. He's just a kid. He's an American citizen. Okay? But even in the instances where you have police officers, if somebody runs at a cop, attacking a cop, what's going to happen? Usually the cop's going to defend themselves with a firearm. It's usually what happens. Police aren't the only ones that have the right to defend themselves. American citizens have that right as well. You don't see too many American people exercising it. But when you see situations where there's all-out anarchy and civil order has been lost because there's mobs of people burning down buildings, looting buildings and businesses, when you see that level of civil unrest, it's kind of one of those things where people have to take their own safety into their own hands, and they have to carry. We saw that with the Rodney King riots, and even with some of the Ferguson riots in the past. People, business owners, and people have to defend their homes. So Kyle had that right. He had the right to. He had the right to be out there just as anyone else. I know a lot of people say, oh, well, what was he doing? He shouldn't have been out there. He was a kid. He should not have been out there, as though he didn't have a right to be there. Apparently, according to Kyle, he only received the notification on his phone that there was a curfew in effect after he arrived. Okay, so he was receiving that instruction, I guess, on his phone at the same time many other people were receiving that. Most other people were staying as well. So he stayed because he was asked to help protect the car lot out there. And so that's why he stayed. The protesters, no one seems to care that the protesters were out there. Everyone says, oh, he shouldn't have been there. He didn't have a right to be there. The protesters didn't have a right to be there. They should have all went home, shouldn't they? But they didn't. And look, I'm sorry. I've been listening to so much of the mainstream media's coverage of this. I called them protesters, right? When in reality they were rioters. So that is my bad there. I'm going to make that. I'm making that correction for the record. So yeah, apparently the jury deliberations have been paused until tomorrow. So tomorrow we're likely to hear from the jury as to what their verdict is. And like I said, so far it's not looking so good. The fact that we haven't already seen a jury verdict means this is going to be a hard one. It means that there are some jury members in there that are the oddballs out. And it could be that the oddballs are people saying that they think that Kyle Rittenhouse should be found guilty, and maybe the majority is saying not guilty. Or it could be vice versa. It could be the oddballs are saying that he should be not guilty, and the others are saying guilty. Either way, if the jury does not come to a unanimous verdict, then that leaves it open for a hung jury and for a mistrial. That does. And that's kind of my prediction. I did do a poll earlier on Twitter, and I was asking people, like, what's your prediction? What do you think's going to happen? I'll read you the poll results of what other people were thinking. It was out of 2,500 votes, 77.8% said they think that it's going to be not guilty. 4.1% said they think it's going to be guilty. And 18.1% said they think it's going to be a hung jury. I'm kind of leaning towards hung jury, especially since the deliberation has been put off until tomorrow, and hearing about the jurors being fearful of their lives and threats, and that it seems to be 2 jurors that are having this holdup in this issue. And that's what makes me think that it's likely going to be a hung jury. Some people think that I think, look, here's the deal. I think that the odds of just outright not guilty, I don't know, or even guilty. I mean, it just seems like I have a hard time thinking that the entire 12 jurors are all going to be like on the same page. I have a hard time thinking that. Plus, really, there's been a lot left open here for a mistrial. I mean, I know that the left-wing people are saying, oh, it should be a mistrial, it's not fair, and they're blaming the judge. They're trying to act like the judge is, they were saying he was a white supremacist, okay? What? Because his hand for a second made the okay sign for a second when he was talking. Which I know most people when they're talking and they're using their hands a lot, every once in a while, their hand takes a shape. And for the longest time, this was like, okay, but now they've turned it into something else. And so they're saying, oh, and because he made a comment about the Asian food that they ordered for the people at the courthouse. So, they're really grasping at straws here. And I think it's because the judge has not been thrilled with the lawyer tricks and games that prosecutor Binger was trying to pull throughout the trial process. He really did some pretty shady things. Let me try to think. One of the things he did that was shady was he questioned Kyle's right to silence. He's tried to say, oh, well, why did he just waited and remained silent throughout the entire trial and then wanted to testify at the last minute and mold his story around all the testimony that was already given. And so he tried to paint that argument, and he tried to taint and undermine and put a belief behind why Kyle decided to testify. And the judge kind of snapped back at him like, whoa, you're verging on a constitutional violation. He has the right to remain silent. That is his Fifth Amendment right. You have no right to interfere or even have an opinion on that, right? So he kind of snapped back at him. And I think that after that, the leftists were like, oh no, he must be siding with the right wingers and he must be siding with Kyle. And yeah, it's sad how everything is so polarized in this country, this day and age. And I don't think that, the people who believe in upholding the Constitution, let's just put it at that, and the people that believe in the right to self-defense and the Second Amendment and free and fair trials and free speech, I don't think those are the extreme people here, okay? Let's just say that. I don't. And what's weird is, like I said, we're in such a weird day and age where that is made to be seen as extreme, and the people who want communism and to act like mini tyrants and authoritarians, those people are considered to be the normal ones. And I'm not accepting that as the new normal, okay? I'm not accepting that reality. I think that those are just the ignorant ones, uneducated ones. So yeah, I'm going to keep you guys updated as the trial continues on, but it looks like we still are going to have to wait until tomorrow to find out what the verdict is on the case. And I just kind of wanted to give you guys my take on it, my perspective on it. I know that there has been a lot of politicization surrounding this case, and I think that the precedents that can be created here are pretty dangerous. If in fact Kyle, for whatever reason, is found to be by this jury guilty, I think that the dangerous precedent that will be set is that we won't have the right to really defend ourselves with a firearm. A precedent that if you bring a gun, it means that you are looking to kill someone. I mean, that just sounds insane to me. It sounds like it's not, that line of reasoning is illogical. Just because you have a gun doesn't mean you want to kill someone. It means you want to defend yourself. You want to protect yourself. But if this case, in fact, goes downhill and we get a guilty verdict, the precedent is you can't defend yourself. And that's a scary thing, because we're already hearing talk of potential rioting following the result of a criminal trial, right? Let's pretend that you're just someone that really doesn't care and isn't following this particular criminal trial, right? But like from the perspective of that they might have would be, why would people want to riot over just a criminal trial, right? But the perspective is, why shouldn't I be able to protect myself against any situation? If you're a business owner, if you're a homeowner, like the McCloskeys, why shouldn't you be able to protect yourself? Because you never know when the next politicized trial or, offense to the BLM group happens, and then here comes a riot to your town. So they're just allowed to come burn your town down and burn your home down or your business down and attack you, and you don't get the right to defend yourself? That's a scary precedent. And if anything, I think it emboldens those people, and it encourages them to be able to act lawlessly and to be able to attack people. So I think that's part of the reason why Mark and Patricia McCloskey, the husband and wife that were seen defending their home, carrying firearms during some of the last riots and protests, they came and showed their support and made an appearance at the Kenosha courthouse. So I'm going to show you guys that video right here.
No justice, no peace, no for Anthony and JoJo. No justice, no peace, no justice, no peace.
So here they are. I mean, I'm not really sure if you guys are hearing the audio on this. I'm not hearing it, but there's really not much going on there in the audio anyway. It's literally just them being like, hey, hi, just some reporters shouting out at them. But yeah, that's Mark and Patricia McCloskey, the famous husband and wife that defended their home with their firearms, and how mad the left wing was that these people dared defend their property with their firearms. And that was an instance where they were defending their property, but who's to argue that they weren't in fear of their lives, in fear of being attacked, Who's to argue that, they wouldn't have been attacked had they not had their firearms on them? I think that's just an instance where a firearm was able to act as a deterrent. Whereas, for some reason, whatever reason, in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, in the events that transpired on that night, his firearm wasn't a deterrent enough to not have been attacked by people. All right, let's look at some of this video footage coming out from Andy No. It looks like he captured some angry protesters shouting and some of the chaos and commotion that happened outside of the courthouse there. Let's go to this.
White supremacists here! We don't need 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 white supremacists.
Okay, they aren't very creative with their chants. I will say that would get very annoying. The same chant over and over again a million times. Got it. Switch it up. And just to blanketly call people white supremacists is just ridiculous. It turns into the boy who cried wolf, To just blanketly call anyone that disagrees with you a white supremacist is crying wolf, okay? Because then it actually serves as a disservice when somebody who actually is like a vehement racist needs to be called out, right? And I think maybe that's part of the reason why we see so much of the vehement racism going on within the Democrat Party itself and the left wing, such as critical race theory. We see so much of that just like flying under the radar. Maybe because they're so busy pointing fingers at everyone else, they can't look within their own political apparatus to see their own racism of some sort. I don't know. Or maybe it's just the whole accuse them of what I myself am doing. That could be just a tactic. It could just be that that these people are just full of it and using tactics and they know they're being dishonest. Or it could just be that they have cognitive dissonance and they aren't able to put two and two together. I think it might be a mixture of both. I think you might see some of both in that. I think that some of the political leadership definitely knows what they're doing. But your average people, I think, are so disconnected and discombobulated, and they've been subjected to so much media propaganda their entire lives, they don't know how to distinguish, truth and fact from fiction. So yeah. Let's see what else is going on here. I'm kind of just looking through the news here, seeing what I can find, if there's anything new coming out. This is kind of more of a laid back, off the cuff live stream. So I guess on a personal note, because I know a lot of people have been like, Millie, where are you? You haven't been doing as many live streams lately. We really want you to come back. Please put out some more content. And it's kind of been on my heart to talk a little bit about what I've been going through and why, I guess you could say, I haven't been putting out as much video content and doing as much as I had in the past. And there's a couple reasons, okay? One of the reasons is I've actually been dealing with migraine problems, and I didn't know they were migraine problems. It's really kind of a weird story. But like for the past year, and really starting up really bad around the time, like around in March when I stopped doing my daily live streams, I started having like really crazy symptoms. And sometimes with migraines, they aren't always particularly just a headache. It's not like, oh man, I just have this horrible headache. You can get all kinds of really weird symptoms like increased like hypersensitivity with light or hypersensitivity with hearing, or in my instance, I was even having migraine symptoms where it would cause my speech to slur, and I would have like dizziness spells, vertigo spells, all this really weird stuff going on. And I was like, what the heck is wrong with me? What is going on here? So I was dealing with all these problems, and then on top of it, dealing with the censorship and the craziness and all the crackdowns. And so it was just one of those things where, look, I hadn't dealt with some of the crazy trauma and stress that happened as a result of my unlawful, illegal arrest, the political prosecution that I had been through, where I had a Democrat prosecutor come after me. Most people think, oh, it's just a prosecutor, just somebody on behalf of the state bringing charges against someone. Well, I feel a little bit of a sense of relief here since the publicity of this Kyle Rittenhouse case. Many people have been able to see just how politicized the justice system has become in this day and age, where you can see the clear political bias that this prosecutor has. I mean, he comes off as a flaming progressive, a flaming liberal, okay? And how out to get Kyle he is. He just wants to get him on anything, and he doesn't care if he lies or is disingenuous or dishonest. So when I had a Democrat prosecutor coming after me for baloney, right, a total of 12 charges against me, Gavin, and my brother, okay, 12 charges. Every single charge dropped. Who files charges just to drop them? for what purpose, right? I believe that the intended purpose was multiple fold, but I believe the intended purpose was to discredit me. It was to try to discredit me because the investigative journalism that I was doing at the time, the undercover people that I had inside the Sunrise Movement, many of these left-wing organizations that were planning an attack on the U.S. Capitol, mind you. Okay, and the timeline for their attack was starting election night all the way up until inauguration day. That was the timeline for their attack, where they literally had the tactical map, their ArcGIS map, and their target was the U.S. Capitol. Okay? So we had undercovers. I had an undercover person in there collecting all of that. I had been piecemeal, like kind of giving you guys parts and parts as it was coming, because some of it was like, you know, it was an ongoing thing where we're just receiving new stuff every day, and we were getting it to you guys as soon as we could. And then I had Shadowgate in the works, where Gavin was editing it, and we were really excited about it, and I was talking and coordinating with Alex Jones and others on the release of it. And that morning I was communicating with Alex and the producers on getting it out there, and then here comes the police rolling up, right, while it's literally uploading. Okay, it was probably about like 90-something% uploaded when they rolled up and nabbed us. Okay, with their secret grand jury indictment. Which, look at this, now they've got grand jury indictments against Bannon and you know, secret court orders against James O'Keefe, where they're doing raids on his house at 6 a.m. in the morning, you know, handcuffing him and making him sit out there in his pajamas or underwear or whatever, while FBI agents raid his house solely for the purpose of obtaining his phone records, which then they subsequently leak to the press. So this is the conclusion that I've come to throughout all of this. The conclusion is they're weaponizing the American justice system, and they're using these Democrat prosecutors to go after their political opponents and journalists in order to do psyops and media hit pieces. You see, I don't think that James O'Keefe is actually going to be convicted of a single crime. I think that the entire purpose was, 1, the media hit piece and character assassination, 2, to obtain documents or you know, the internal communications and leak them to the press for psyops and media hit pieces. That is what they did. And if you notice about what the contents were inside the communications in his phone, it talked about the tactics he used in concealing the identities of his undercovers. So, same thing back in 2020. I had undercovers. I had people inside these left-wing organizations. We were doing groundbreaking investigative reports. The police report, mind you, that literally just appeared out of thin air months after the supposed incident happened. The police report was written like a media hit piece. It was full of inferences and opinion and conjecture and just like, oh, and we thought she wasn't telling the truth because she turned her head to the side or looked to the, you know what I mean? Like, just the most, like, when would a police officer take the time to write any of it? It was written like a novel. That's what I'm trying to say. It was written like a media hit piece so that the media could copy and paste the statement and put it into a media headline and read it off like, oh, look, it must be true because it was said in a police report. Police report also said, oh, she's an InfoWars reporter. I didn't tell them that. Okay? So like I'm saying, I didn't say I wasn't, but I wasn't offering that up, okay? So like I'm saying, it was written like a media hit piece. Okay? So that they could use it for a character assassination on me. What else makes sense as to why they did that whole thing. Just to drop it all. Just for it all to be dismissed. Because look how effective it was. One, how many right-wing media networks passed up covering my Sunrise Exposed Zoom chats and groundbreaking reports because of it? I can tell you a lot did. A lot did. I can really only think of one person. Maybe it was Steve Bannon actually lightly touched on it. He actually played part of the Sunrise Exposed videos. How many people didn't cover Shadowgate because of it? Or didn't, like, talk about the contents of Shadowgate? And I don't mean, oh, cover Shadowgate as in, oh, look, she was arrested and she put out this film, Shadowgate. The contents of Shadowgate. They made it all about me and my arrest, and then I put out a documentary, and no one talked about the contents of said documentary. Okay? And look how effective. I mean, the whole thing with the Alex Jones and the craziness and that happened there, and then, you know, it was effective, okay, at character assassinating me and making it so many people in the right-wing sphere wouldn't touch the material that I had gathered. In fact, I had some journalists reaching out to me trying to be like, hey, let us just take your work and take credit for your work because it's so huge and so groundbreaking, but no one will touch it because it's attached to your name. That's what they were saying, and I was like, all right, I guess. Go ahead. I mean, but at the end of the day, I put it out regardless because I'm like, it just needs to be out there, you know? And now here we are, where in this time period where you see all of these Trump aides, these Trump campaigns and staffers and everyone that's being subpoenaed by the House January 6th committee regarding January 6th and the taking over of the Capitol, right? The storming of the Capitol, the taking over of it. All the people that are being subpoenaed right now by by Congress are just the political opponents of the Democrats. It's just being entirely politicized. This is just a witch hunt against people close to Trump. It's clear when you read the list, okay? When you read the list of all the people included in the subpoenas, it's just like Steve Bannon, Mark Meadows, General Flynn, a bunch of Trump campaigners, the people who managed and put on the event. I mean, they might as well have the guy doing the lighting. I mean, it's that bad, okay? And none of them want to talk about or subpoena. They don't want to subpoena in John Sullivan, the BLM Antifa leftist goon that was inside the Capitol, who I caught on video with the help of one of my whistleblower sources that was actually a Proud Boy, mind you, who knew Sullivan, went and recorded a conversation that he had with Sullivan and his girlfriend, Jade Sacker, the two that were in there. That conversation, in it, John admits that they knew ahead of time that they were going to storm the Capitol. So we have an audio admission from Sullivan that it was pre-planned. He knew about it being pre-planned. Sullivan wore a Trump hat initially, took pictures of it on social media. He clearly was trying to go and pretend to be a Trump supporter. I mean, these were things that were talked about in the Zoom chats beforehand by these leftist groups, talking about role-playing. I forget the term that they used, but it was like some term they use when you're in video games and you're doing role-playing, and it's like real, like kind of like live-action role-playing. And in this case, you know, many of them went out there and pretended to be Trump supporters. Some of them just kind of dressed in black bloc to completely conceal their identity. John Sullivan messed up by not having his mask on. He was able to be identified, and he live streamed it all, which is, he obviously wanted some kind of credit. Okay, so why wasn't he subpoenaed? Why wasn't his brother, James Sullivan, the Proud Boy, Trump supporter, guy who, you know, was inside many of these right-wing groups. Why wasn't he subpoenaed? And maybe even their PSYOPs contractor daddy. Why wasn't he subpoenaed? Why weren't any of the people in the Zoom chats who literally had tactical maps with the Capitol literally highlighted as their target for taking over the buildings, where you literally have Lisa Fithian and all these other Democrats saying, people are going to be there and they're going to take over buildings and we should let them. And taking over buildings is a legitimate form of protest and no, and all this stuff. And it's like, all right. And they talk about how tactical and coordinated these groups are. To be honest, that sounds like the type of group that would be tactical enough to actually succeed at taking over a government building. Or how about some of the people that were inside of the Proud Boys or some of these other right-wing groups that were part of the taking over the Capitol and their associations with the FBI? So one of the whistleblowers that I talked to before was actually a significant other of one of these Proud Boys and many other guys, I guess, and had all kinds of things to say about weird FBI involvement in these groups. So, I mean, all this stuff was handed over, and I'm just sitting here scratching my head like, this is all a puppet show. It is all a puppet show. It is all politicized. They're not trying to get to the bottom of what happened on January 6th. Those Democrats are probably the ones behind it. I mean, you had high-level SES executives, senior executive officials. You had DHS HQ officials. You had people in the FDA, various governmental agencies talking about how they were using their power in the government agencies to undermine Trump. And they were even discussing whether or not they were going to plan to all withhold the keys to the kingdom. That's their verbiage, keys to the kingdom from Trump. Even if Trump had somehow won despite all the rigging attempts, right? Who knows, maybe there'd be such a landslide or something that they wouldn't have been able to. I think they overkilled and they made sure that Biden had all the fake vote landslide they need. Oh, getting ahead of myself here. But yeah, let's not go into that. We're not going to go into the election because you guys know why. But anyway, probably going to get myself in trouble now. Damn it. See, this is exactly it, guys. This is it. This is the freaking censorship. And this is part of the reason why I'm just like not wanting to stream on these platforms. Okay? I'm wanting to go on a new platform where I don't have to self-censor. I don't have to be worried about these platforms disappearing. And look, here, at the end of the day, this is what it boils down to. The platform itself is not like, I'm not like, oh, I have to keep my YouTube channel. It's not that. It's that I want to be able to keep in contact with you. That's it. It's that simple. If I can keep in contact with you in a different way, then I would choose it in a second. And that's what I've been doing, and that's part of the reason why I've been doing what I've been doing with Quicks. And the beta test program has been going wonderful. Beta test pilots, I guess I'll kind of give you guys a little bit there. Beta test pilots are already logging in, creating profiles and profile pictures and names and all that fun stuff. And I mean, so far so good. Everything seems to be going according to schedule, according to plan. And pretty soon you guys will be seeing it's the unofficial launch, but there is going to be a pre-order launch for Quicks where you guys can pre-order devices and get first in line to get them, because we're kind of doing this in steps here. But definitely you're going to want to be one of the ones to get in on the pre-order, so you guys can not only just be some of the first people to have a box and to be in the network, but also to just build out, if you're somebody who wants to build out a portal and become a creator account, you can get ahead of the curve, be one of the first people in there. I know that we've already got, like, there's going to be at least 1,000 portals by the time you guys get in, because I know a lot of people are creating accounts and portals and whatnot as part of the beta test program. But you're going to want to get in there and start making your channels and getting that stuff up there. And I know that a lot of I'm actually kind of surprised, because I was looking through, because I guess you can do this on like a creator end or whatnot in the YouTube studio. You can look and see all the other creators in there and the people who also have pretty large followings. And there are a lot of people in there that follow me that even have bigger followings than me and that have very interesting YouTube channels. I mean, there's some pretty cool ones that do gun education, or there's some cool ones that just do like hair tutorials, or just random stuff, cooking channels. It was really interesting, because I was looking at my subscribers in a way on YouTube, and looking at some of the many wonderful, talented people out there and all the interesting content that they make. And I'm like, I would love to see a lot of you guys on there. I would love to see the content that you guys are making on your own channels on Quix. So that's just exciting for me. And I just hope that you guys all come on there where we can have free private communications. We can speak freely, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Free speech. Key. Free speech is key. That is why it is number one. That is why it is the First Amendment. Second Amendment is also key. Right now, we're in a day and age where we're having to worry about both. We're worrying about one with censorship, and even being forced to self-censor, and we're having to worry about the latter, or the other, which is Second Amendment, which is the precedent that could be set with the Kyle Rittenhouse case. That is a very terrifying precedent, and something that we as Americans need to definitely be concerned about, because we should all have the right to self-defense. Definitely. That is what the Second Amendment is about. All right, so I'm talking in circles here, guys, but I just wanted to kind of give you guys that update, a little tiny tease or update on Quix, and I wanted to encourage everyone in their fight against the authoritarians and tyranny. I know so many of you guys have just been so vocal, just out there putting out real truthful information and trying to spread the word on so many issues. I see so many people stepping out there more than ever before. I know there's a lot of people on TikTok as well that, have been like truthers and getting information out to people. And so it's wonderful to see my fellow patriots and Americans standing up to do something. So I just want to thank you guys. I want to thank you guys all as well, just for all of the support that I've had from you guys throughout the years. It really means a lot to me. It means a lot to me that when I was attacked, when it was me on the chopping block, when they were coming after me and my children, I had CPS agents where I had to go to a meeting with them where literally they're all wearing shirts that said "Turning Portage County Blue," turning Portage blue, which Portage was the county. That'd be like Kyle going to meet with, if he had kids and they tried to take his kids, Kyle going to meet with them and they had shirts that said "Turning Kenosha Blue." It's like, okay, you can see when you're being attacked, and when it's just purely because of your political beliefs and what you stand for. And I just want to thank you all for supporting me and being there to stand up for me when I was being attacked and my children were being attacked. I see so many of you as well out there supporting Kyle Rittenhouse when he's been being attacked. Many people have been donating money to his legal defense fund, which is helping him. I know people are supporting James O'Keefe, and that's wonderful. And people are supporting Steve Bannon and the indictments that he's now facing, right? So it's really, we're in this fight together. And if we don't all stick together, we're lost. And I just want to thank all of you that have supported me, because so many in that moment, it's kind of like this. If you've ever had a moment in your life of trial where something bad happens, or your legs are kicked out from underneath you, or you're just in a really bad situation where you're vulnerable and being attacked, there's always those people in your life that turn their back on you, and that just, I guess fair weather friends, or the people that just leave you out to dry or turn their back on you. And I did have a lot of that, but I also had you guys. So thank you so much for just being there. And so I've had a lot to think about the past couple months, and I want you guys to know that my entire purpose behind Quicks is I'm doing this for you. I'm doing it so that we can have free speech. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about me. It's not about, okay, I want to be able to say what I want to say. Yeah, sure. Okay. But don't we all? Right? If I get to say what I want to say, you get to say what you want to say. And I want to see humanity rise up like never before, and just to see the full potential of humanity without it being, molested by all of these psyops and IIA operations and brainwashing propaganda and crap that goes on. And look, you're not going to be able to be doing IIA fake bot operations on Quick, so we won't have that. But just, it's really for you guys, okay? Because you guys are going to be the ones that get to utilize it. It'll be yours to do with what you will, to engage with each other, privacy, to put out content, to become your own creators, to build your own portals, and to put your own content out there, and to communicate and share information, share videos and everything else, right? It's so that we can better communicate. So that is the whole purpose behind Quicks. And you are also the purpose behind why I decided to come do a live stream today. Because at the end of the day, I care, and I care about our future, and I care about our First Amendment, our Second Amendment, and the issues that we all face together. And that's just the bottom line. That's why I decided to come on here. It's not really about anything else. I'm just on here for you guys, and that's it. So I'm just going to continue speaking my mind. Every once in a while I will say there's that fear in the back of my head. Is my door going to be kicked in, or am I going to be raided, or for whatever reason that they pull out of a straw? I don't know. Are they going to try to come take my kids, or are they going to retaliate against me? Probably. They probably will come for me before they come for you. Just saying. Just because I'm kind of it's the nail that sticks out gets hammered. That's a saying in communist China, right? So I'm sticking my neck out, and I might get hammered sooner than everyone. I might get hit on the head sooner than everyone else. Might get nailed sooner than everyone else. But at the end of the day, it's the risk I'm willing to take, because if not you, then who? That's, I guess, how the saying goes. If you don't do it, who's going to do it, right? And if I look back in time and all the things I did, I don't regret anything. I'm glad I did everything I did. I'm glad that I've been standing up and being a truther and trying to fight against the tyrants for the many years that I have. And I would not change any of it. I would not take any of it back. I would not do anything over. I'm glad with every single choice that I made. And in that, I know that every choice that I made was because I cared about the future of America, and I cared about my fellow Americans. That's the bottom line. And so, although I may have hit a bump in the road with being attacked, and then all the stress I've had this year as a result of that attack, and the migraines and other issues I've been dealing with personally, the bottom line is that no matter what I do, what's in my heart is fighting the fight. And so here I am. I'm back in action, guys. You're going to see more of me. And my migraines are being treated, so I do have that relief. So that's another part of the reason I'm super happy and stoked. But yeah, I'm going to be back in action, and I'm going to be doing more live streams, and I'm going to be making some really exciting announcements soon. So stay tuned, guys. This is Millie Weaver, signing off.